There's a highest high and the lowest low inside the session. That's it. The previous day's high and low. Are they hiding that information from you? No. Previous week's high and low. Are they hiding that information? Are they changing it like Forex fucking dealers? Everybody has a different high and low. Everybody has a different settlement price. Speaking of settlement price, do you see where NASDAQ closed on Friday? At the low of that buy side and balance, sell side inefficiency that we were studying. You think that's fucking random? You think that that's just going to happen because sellers said, oh, we're not going to go any lower than that. Buyer said, I don't want to buy anymore. So then sellers balanced out and stopped it right at the low of the buy side and balance, sell side inefficiency that we were looking at on the live stream. And they said there's no algorithm. Come on, man. You got to wake up. The whole world's ran on algorithms now. Everything you watch on social media is getting piped to you based on what you have watched before. They're learning you. They're studying you like a candlestick, motherfucker. They got you pegged. They know where your high and low is, and they know how to run your stops. They know how to get you excited. They know how to make you spend money. They know how to blow your account. That's your bank account. Oh, I was just thinking about that, fill in the blank. Because your little device you're listening to me in right now, it's listening to you. And every time you talk about something, I'm in the car walking, or not walking, driving. I never take my cell phone with me anywhere unless my wife's shopping. And then I'm usually on social media blasting it. I'm trying to zone out because she's asking me questions. What do you think about this? And you think I look good in this? And how about these? Which one you like better? I said, fuck, any question you ask me like that, I'm not going to give you the right answer. So if you like them both, just fucking buy them both. And then I'm done. I'm completely exempt. I can't be looked at like, oh, you asshole. You should like this one more. Why'd you ask me? If you like it more, why does it matter if I like it more? But that's a woman thing. And a guy thing is, keep me the fuck out of that. But to be a supporting, nurturing husband, I go along as the wallet with legs, okay? So I handed a credit card, and I'm basically distracting myself with social media. Chances are, if I'm going 100 mile an hour on social media, I'm probably in a climate where my wife is spending money, and I don't want to be there paying attention to that because I'm trying to avoid her. Because if she sees me in my phone, chances are she's not going to ask me the question. She's like, okay, I ain't going to ask him. He's doing his thing. He's being ICT. He's ICT doing ICT things. Bro, we don't care about your wife. We don't care about all this stuff. Tell us how to make money. I am. I am. I'm telling you how to have the right mindset. Because if you don't think correctly, if you don't manage stress, and here's where we're going to segue into it. So for those folks that want to do things on YouTube and you're recording this for the purpose of putting it on your YouTube channel, I hope you make money with it, by the way, because things are expensive. And allow me to get a drink here for a second. This is the part where we go into how to conquer and subdue anxiety and stress and living with stress. I just gotta get a little sip here. Peek what time it is. I've been going 2 hours and 15 minutes. Not bad. About 2 hours. It didn't feel like 2 hours. I'm gonna try to get this part done in an hour. I know I usually say this kind of stuff and it ends up going for a long, long time. But Caleb's not feeling well today, so I have to check on him and see how everything's going with him in terms of, I think he's sick with something. I don't know what it is. But if you are a person of faith, if you could keep him in prayer, I'd be wonderful. I'd appreciate that. But the human body is wonderfully and fearfully created. And we have the amazing superpower of regeneration. Every 7 years, everything in our body, just about, not everything entirely, but everything has been completely replaced in 7 years. Your skin cells are completely different. The surface of your bones are changing. Your eye, it changes. Like now, because I'm 52 years old, I'm experiencing the hardening of my eye lens. It doesn't have the flexibility as it did when I was a younger man. So my eye prescriptions are going up as I get older. And that's just a normal thing that happens when people get older. So you want to preserve your eyesight and you do whatever you can to protect your eyesight. I'm convinced that iPhone was one of the big contributing factors to why my vision deteriorated, because it wasn't until after I bought my first iPhone and used it a lot. And when you first got it, they gave you a warning that you had to acknowledge that you know that looking at this device will have adverse effects on your vision. You probably never noticed it, but it was in there. And every time that you get these phones, if you read it, it'll tell you, it's warning you, just like smoking cigarettes. This is going to cause lung cancer. This is going to cause heart disease. But yet people still pay it. They buy it. So I don't like to use my phone unless I have to be out and about and I know I'm going to be in an environment where I'm going to distract myself. Otherwise, my phone stays home. But what I was saying to you earlier is an algorithm in your phone is constantly listening to you so that it can influence you. And when you see these things pop up that you were talking about, like when I was talking about generators, one of my students emailed me and said, hey, look, we just had an experience with a hurricane or storm. And I know you mentioned in the past, what generators do you like? Well, I went on the Amazon and I took a screenshot of it, not an affiliate link or anything like that, and I sent it to her and I said, this is a good one. It uses very low fuel. It's the Honda little red one. I don't know what model number it is, but it does well. It runs a long time on a little bit of gas. And because I was talking about it with her in the car, her phone picked up on what I was saying. And then now she gets all these advertisements offering her generators. So if you don't understand that the market is a great big algorithm that is enticing people to buy and sell for their benefit, not yours, then I don't know how else to convince you, because everything that we do is influenced by algorithms. Everything. And it's not a stretch of the imagination to see how when electronic trading became electronic and open outcry in the pits was done away with, that's why open outcry pit traders don't do very well, because the advantages of having that stressful run of not knowing what the market's going to do and they just have a shit day. But when everybody's dogpiling in and there's a lot of orders going into the marketplace, they catch the momentum by following on. Okay, they see the orders. Just like when you understand how to read buy side and sell side, they know where the highs and lows are for the intraday. They're writing it down on a little scratch pad. This was the highest high it went to in the last hour. This is the highest high it went to on the day so far. So when the market starts to run towards that high, chances are, what's it going to do? It's going to pop the high. And a lot of pit traders, that was their thing. And they had the advantages of seeing the influx of all the real orders coming in, not something that's fluffed up with book map, level 2 data. All of that stuff can be scammed. But when they're in the pit and they see actual tickets being ran down to the floor, they have an inside edge of being a momentum trader. But now, because they don't have that anymore, they have the stress of now being forced to look at a chart. And that's why they don't do well. It's a great big divergence between what they're accustomed to having faith in and what was their model of just was piggyback. Let's all dogpile on what's going on right now. That's usually what was going on in the pit. But they don't exist anymore. So that's a source of stress for that type of person. You, as someone that's coming up in this industry now, if you're brand new, you have all the advantages today that wasn't afforded to people like me and before me. I started November 5th, 1992. That's when I first started being a trader. I was being influenced by my uncle at 14, talking to me, telling me, I would hear him, and I didn't know he was laying the seeds that eventually would become who I am today, but he didn't teach me how to trade. He didn't know how to trade. He was like a conduit. I think God basically was using him to constantly push it, because this is my whole life. That's my whole purpose here. I'm convinced of it. But it wasn't an easy path, and I had lots of stress. And I want to take you back to 2001 for a second and kind of paint the picture. I was on Merc, which was MIRC. It was an internet relay chat. We didn't have social media like we have today. Like if you wanted to be online, you did either bulletin boards, message boards, basically. Think of like the early stages of Amazon, not Amazon, but America Online. And then if you weren't on a platform like America Online, you used internet relay chat, which were like chat rooms today. Okay. And honestly, that was way better than social media today. Social media today is afforded people the ability to really be horrible to one another. The worst thing that could happen back then was someone cuss you out. Oh, okay, whatever, big deal. But now they could take your image, your photo, Photoshop it, make you look fat, make you look skinny, make you look toothless, make you look homeless, make you look like a female when you're a male, or vice versa. And that's just toxic. And I wish that wasn't part of what social media is today, but I understand it's meant to divide us constantly, and that causes stress. I have one of the biggest reasons for being an angry person if I was insecure because of the things that people put on the internet about me that are not true. I don't have any stress about those types of things. I don't like that people sometimes talk about my family when they don't know my family. They lie and they say things terrible about my family. I get angry when I see that stuff. There's things that I would like to do if they were in front of me, and they would never fucking do that if I was in front of them because they'd lose their fucking teeth. But if you're walking through your daily life and you have all of these adversities that everybody endures it, everybody has these stresses, and you allow it to compound and fester and build up, eventually you might have, and don't be surprised if you don't have any understanding of what a panic attack is, but eventually, given enough time, if you keep having these stressful environments and you keep allowing yourself to be in these stressful conditions, you can enter into a state of panic. And that's where you allow generalized stress, go beyond that to generalized anxiety, and then to full-blown panic. And I am intimately aware of what that feels like because dozens of times I have been ushered into the emergency room by ambulance, swearing up and down at the time that I was getting ready to meet my maker. As a young man, at 18, 19 years old, I had panic attacks then because I was obsessive about my first wife. She was someone that looked exactly like Alicia Silverstone. I have pictures to prove all that stuff. She was a troubled girl, and I married her to get out of a troubled situation. I had a lot of stress placed on me that I shouldn't have placed on me as a young man. But I was trying to be a white knight. I was trying to save her from a toxic home environment. And if I apologize for that. You might want to edit that part out. The uh, the stress of being in a young relationship and being my first, that was the first female I was intimate with. Because I'm a journaler, because I've always journaled as a person. I've journaled dreams. I have a dream journal. I was always journaling things about martial arts. I wanted to have my own martial arts studio. I did all these things as a young man. And I can tell you the date and time where I lost my virginity. Chances are most men out here listening to me can't do that. The women probably can do that because it means something to them. And when I was growing up, I wanted to give that part of me to someone that deserved it. And I felt that this girl at the time was everything I wanted. And if we would have stayed together, I would have never been with anybody else. I've always been principle oriented. I've always been someone that the numbers and the probabilities of things. And when you think that way, it's not unnatural for you to elevate the level of importance around things that are going to be your best outcome. And when they don't hit, when you don't reach those numbers or those goals, what will happen is that you will eventually have measures of regret, uh, being let down, like you didn't perform as well as you should have. And when that happens, you can obsess about it. And I developed an obsessive compulsive disorder where I would look at things and I would judge myself very critically. And I would weigh myself against other people. When these other people had such a higher degree of efficiency and experience that it would be unreasonable for me to have that expectation to live up to that measure of performance. But because I was a young man and because we always think of ourselves as a superhero in the making, the the pressure that we place on ourselves, like I was placing on myself as a young man, it compounded. And on September 11th, I was teaching a young man. Well, not a young man. I think he was a little bit older than I was, but not by much. I've mentioned it before. His name is George Lutz, and he lived in Virginia. And I was teaching him how to trade the S&P. And I would call the S&P and outline where it was going to go in text, because we couldn't do charts back then. I couldn't share a chart in a chat room or anything like that, because that was not, we didn't have the capability of doing that. So give me 1 second here. The, uh, the morning of September 11th was just like any other day. It was weather is beautiful. I woke up feeling good. I had already started giving um, pre-market analysis to Mr. Lutz, and he wasn't paying for mentorship. Like he didn't pay me to do it. He offered to pay me a little bit of money, but because he was literally delivering pizza then, and I told him, I said, listen, I can relate to what you're doing. I can physically relate to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit with you and coach you through it. And once you get a feel for what it is you're trying to do, I'll turn you loose, but you don't need to pay me for it. And I took Cody to public school. He and my oldest daughter, they went to public school, and my younger ones, we homeschooled them. But the morning I took Cody to school, it was beautiful out. And I was telling myself, wow, this is such a lovely day. And everything was just picture perfect. You ever have a day like that where you wake up and everything's so good? You feel good, no headache, no body aches. Just, you feel happy. You feel like you're at the right place at the right time, and you feel wonderfully balanced. Everything is as it should be. And I was coming back home. I was driving down through Essex, Maryland. And I literally was holding my hand out, thinking to myself, it is such a beautiful day. Said it out loud. And I pulled up to the house, went inside, hit the remote, CNBC, and there's a picture of the first building, pluming smoke coming out of it. And I looked at it and looked away, thinking, okay, it's just a commercial for a movie or something. And I turned my screen on, because I would always turn my screen off. I'd leave the system running. And then I said to George, I said, hey, I'm back. He's like, did you see what just happened? And I was like, no, what just happened? He goes, turn on the TV. I said, it is on. And he goes, a plane just hit the Trade Center. I said, is that what that was? So I'm thinking it's one of those like little sinestas, and they were actually saying that on the TV at the time. And as I was talking to him, I said, man, can you imagine the people in that little plane? Because again, I wasn't thinking it was an airline. And then I watched the second plane hit live. And I can't tell you how it made me feel like sick to my stomach. I'm like, I know what this is. Like, I know what this is. And immediately I told him, I said, listen, I'm in a trade right now, and I'm waiting for the open to close it. Like, I wanted to see it follow through with what I was holding the trade for. And because of that, I knew we weren't going to open up. The market was not going to open up. There was not going to be an opening bell. And there was news that other planes were in route to other places. And I wanted my family home immediately. And fear gripped me in a way I've never felt before. I had anxiety attacks about my first wife, when we would get arguments, because I was lovesick over her, obsessively lovesick. I was unnaturally committed to her in an unhealthy way. And eventually grew into a point where I was trying to tell her what to wear, how to act, who to talk to, and that just guaranteed that we weren't going to stay together because of my insecurities. But it was justified in looking backwards, because there was infidelity there, and I picked up on it subconsciously. I knew it was there, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to address it. In life, when you feel like something's not right, you need to obviously address it, because if you let it fester, it could become very bad. And that day was my first dose of full blown panic. Like, I felt like my chest was crushing me. I couldn't think where all my family members were. Like, I couldn't. couldn't collect my thoughts. And I couldn't even type out the message to Mr. Lutz to tell him I'm getting off of here. I got to take care of personal matters. I called my wife at her family member's house and I said, listen, I need you home. Like, I need you to go home right now. We need to get the kids out of school. You get our daughter, and I'll get Cody, and, let's just head back to the house. Don't stop anywhere. And she's like, why? What's going on? I explained to her, and she was like, oh, okay, well, big deal. And she didn't realize and I knew that day things were changing around the world. I knew at that moment something big just shifted, a major shift. And if you look back, if you're old enough, a lot of you 20-year-olds don't even know what that day was like. You don't know what the world was like before that day.